What happens when those sworn to uphold the law become the ones who break it in the worst ways imaginable? While FBI agents are trusted to protect justice, a few have crossed the line into darkness, committing crimes so severe that they were sentenced to life in prison. Today, we reveal the full list of former FBI agents who betrayed their oath, the chilling details of their actions, and how they ended up behind bars forever. From shocking corruption to unimaginable violence, this is every FBI agent sentenced to life in prison. Stay tuned. Robert F. Cesario. Correctional facility, home confinement. Age at time of crime, 63. Robert F. Cesario, a former FBI special agent based in Arkansas, was sentenced on January 5, 2023 for corrupt destruction of evidence in an official proceeding. His conviction stemmed from intentionally wiping the hard drive of his FBI-issued laptop to prevent its contents from being examined during the federal corruption trial of former Arkansas State Senator John Woods. Cesario admitted to erasing the laptop's data multiple times in December 2017, including once professionally and at least twice personally, effectively destroying potential evidence in a high-profile public corruption case. Despite the severity of his actions, Cesario avoided prison time. U.S. District Judge P.K. Holmes sentenced him to 3 years of probation, with the first 6 months under home confinement without electronic monitoring. Additionally, Cesario was fined $25,000. The lenient sentence sparked public outcry, with demonstrators calling for harsher penalties, arguing that his actions undermined the integrity of the judicial process. Cesario's misconduct had significant implications for the John Woods trial. As the lead FBI investigator, his destruction of potential evidence raised concerns about the fairness of the proceedings. Although the court prohibited discussion of the laptop's erasure during the trial, the incident cast a shadow over the case and highlighted vulnerabilities in the handling of digital evidence by law enforcement officials. Regarding his age, Robert F. Cesario was born in 1954, making him approximately 63 years old at the time of the offenses in 2017. Given his sentence of probation and home confinement, he is not incarcerated in a federal correctional facility. As of now, there is no publicly available information indicating any changes to his sentencing status. Terry J. Albury, Correctional Facility. Federal Correctional Institution FCI, Englewood, Colorado. Age at time of crime, 39 to 40. Terry J. Albury, a former FBI agent, was convicted for leaking sensitive internal documents to the news outlet The Intercept. The leaked materials exposed secret FBI guidelines related to the use of informants and the surveillance of journalists, religious groups, and ethnic minority and immigrant communities. These revelations form the foundation of The Intercept's investigative series titled The FBI's Secret Rules, which shed light on the agency's covert operations and raised significant public concern. Born and raised in Santa Rosa, California, Albury was the son of Ethiopian immigrants. At the age of 13, he was sent to Mountain Mission School in Virginia and later attended Berea College, where he earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in sociology. His background and experiences as a minority heavily influenced his perspective and ultimately his decision to leak classified information. As the only black agent in the Minneapolis FBI field office, Albury reported witnessing systemic racism and xenophobic practices, particularly in assignments involving surveillance of Muslim and immigrant communities. Albury's actions led to his indictment under the Espionage Act of 1917, making his case the second leaked prosecution under the Trump administration. In 2018, he pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 4 years in federal prison. Many civil liberties groups and press freedom advocates condemned his prosecution, arguing that whistleblowers acting in the public interest should not be punished under laws designed for espionage. They called for reform to prevent future prosecutions of individuals seeking to expose government misconduct. Following his sentencing, Terry Albury served his time at the Federal Correctional Institution in Englewood, Colorado. He was released from prison in November 2020 and has since relocated to Berkeley, California. Mark Rossini. Correctional facility, none. Age at time of crime, 46. Mark Rossini, a former FBI special agent, became embroiled in legal controversies following his tenure with the Bureau. In 2009, he pleaded guilty to 5 felony counts for unlawfully accessing FBI databases over 40 times in 2007. These unauthorized accesses were linked to the federal investigation of Anthony Pellicano, a private investigator involved in high-profile cases. Rossini provided at least one of these records to Pellicano's associates, which was subsequently used in a court filing, leading to the discovery of Rossini's misconduct. As a result, he resigned from the FBI and was sentenced to probation, community service, and a fine. In a separate incident, Rossini faced charges in 2022 related to a bribery scheme involving former Puerto Rico Governor Wanda Vázquez Garced. He was accused of conspiring to offer $300,000 to Vázquez's 2020 re-election campaign in exchange for the removal and replacement of the head of the Puerto Rico office of the Commissioner of Financial Institutions with an individual chosen by international banker Julio Herrera Velutini. Rossini turned himself in to U.S. authorities in Puerto Rico in August 2022 and pleaded not guilty to the charges. Regarding his age, Rossini was born in 1961, making him approximately 46 years old at the time of his 2007 offenses. As of now, there is no publicly available information indicating that he is currently incarcerated in any correctional facility. Robert Hansen. Correctional facility, Florence A. D. Max. Age at time of crime, 35. Robert Hansen, a former FBI counterintelligence agent, was arrested on February 18, 2001 for spying on behalf of Russia over a span of more than 20 years. He provided the Soviet Union and later Russia with highly classified information, compromising numerous U.S. intelligence operations. Hansen was arrested after leaving a package of classified materials at a dead drop site in Foxstone Park, Virginia. In 2001, Hansen pled guilty to 15 counts of espionage and conspiracy, avoiding the death penalty in exchange for his cooperation. On May 10, 2002, he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. His espionage activities were described by the U.S. Department of Justice as possibly the worst intelligence disaster in U.S. history. Over the course of his espionage activities, Hansen received over $1.4 million in cash, diamonds, and Rolex watches from Russian handlers. He employed dead drops, hiding classified materials in public locations, such as under footbridges, to transmit information covertly. Hansen was incarcerated at the United States Penitentiary, Florence A. D. Max, Colorado, a high-security federal prison. He served his sentence in solitary confinement for 23 hours a day. Hansen died on June 5, 2023 at the age of 79. Robert G. Lustiak, Jr. Correctional Facility, Federal Bureau of Prisons. Age at time of crime, 49 to 51. Robert G. Lustiak, Jr., a former FBI counterintelligence agent, was convicted in 2015 for his involvement in 2 separate bribery and obstruction schemes. In the first case, he attempted to derail a federal investigation into a $54 million defense contract by soliciting bribes from a former Green Beret and defense contractor, Michael Taylor. In the second case, Lustiak sold confidential FBI information to Rizve Ahmed, a Bangladeshi political figure, in exchange for cash payments. These actions led to his guilty pleas in both the District of Utah and the Southern District of New York. At the time of his sentencing in 2015, Lustiak was 53 years old. Given that his criminal activities occurred between 2011 and 2013, he he would have been approximately 49 to 51 years old during the commission of these crimes. Lustyk received a 10-year prison sentence in Utah for his role in the defense contract bribery scheme and an additional 5-year sentence in New York for the unauthorized disclosure of FBI information to be served consecutively. This resulted in a total sentence of 15 years in federal prison. As of now, specific information about the correctional facility where Lustyk is incarcerated is not publicly available. Federal inmates are typically housed in facilities managed by the Federal Bureau of Prisons, but the exact location may vary based on factors such as security classification and program needs. Scott M. Bowman, Correctional Facility Undisclosed. Age at time of crime, 45. Scott M. Bowman was a former FBI agent assigned to investigate violent crimes in California's Imperial County. During his time in this role, Bowman engaged in a serious breach of trust, stealing more than $136,000 in drug raid money that he was tasked with recovering and safeguarding. Instead of properly accounting for the seized funds, Bowman manipulated the process to conceal his theft. He falsified official FBI reports to indicate that he had confiscated less money than he actually did, and he pocketed the difference for his personal use. Bowman's misuse of the stolen funds was flagrant and reckless. Investigators later found that he spent the illicit money on luxury items, including a new vehicle, a motorcycle, and jewelry. He even went so far as to purchase cosmetic surgery for his wife using the stolen funds. This egregious behavior directly undermined public confidence in federal law enforcement and revealed the extent of his betrayal of FBI protocols and ethical standards. His actions were considered particularly outrageous because they involved funds that should have been entered into evidence in criminal proceedings. In 2016, Scott M. Bowman pleaded guilty to multiple charges, including embezzlement and obstruction of justice. During sentencing, the court noted the grave damage his crimes caused to the reputation of the FBI and the justice system as a whole. He was ultimately sentenced to 5 years in federal prison, a relatively rare case where a federal agent entrusted with upholding the law was instead found guilty of abusing his position for personal gain. His case served as a cautionary example within federal law enforcement agencies about the severe consequences of corruption. Bowman served his sentence at a federal correctional facility, although specific details about which facility were not heavily publicized, likely due to security reasons given his former status as a federal agent. His fall from grace was widely reported as a particularly shameful chapter for the FBI, drawing attention from major media outlets and sparking internal discussions about tightening oversight on agents handling high-value seizures. After completing his prison term, Bowman faded from public view, his career in ruins and his actions permanently tarnishing his legacy. John Joseph Connolly, Jr. Correctional Facility, Federal Correctional Institution in Butner, North Carolina. Age at time of crime, 42. John Joseph Connolly, Jr., born on August 1, 1940 in Boston, Massachusetts, is a former FBI agent who became infamous for his corrupt relationship with James Whitey Bulger, the notorious leader of Boston's Winter Hill Gang. Connolly was instrumental in recruiting Bulger as an informant in the 1970s, aiming to dismantle the Italian-American Mafia in Boston. However, their relationship evolved into a mutually beneficial arrangement where Connolly provided Bulger with confidential information, enabling him to eliminate rivals and evade law enforcement, while Connolly received cash, gifts, and other favors in return. This alliance allowed Bulger's criminal activities to flourish unchecked for years. The extent of Connolly's misconduct came to light in the late 1990s, leading to his indictment in 1999 on charges including racketeering, obstruction of justice, and providing false information. In 2002, he was convicted on federal charges and sentenced to 10 years in prison. Further investigations revealed his involvement in the 1982 murder of John Callahan, a former president of World Jaya Lai, who was killed to prevent him from implicating Bulger and his associates in another murder. In 2008, Connolly was convicted of second-degree murder in Florida and received a 40-year sentence to be served consecutively with his federal sentence. Connolly's convictions were based on testimonies from former mobsters, including Stephen Flemmi and John Martirano, who detailed Connolly's role in leaking information that led to Callahan's murder. Despite appeals and a temporary overturning of his murder conviction in 2014, the decision was reinstated in 2015, affirming that Connolly's actions directly contributed to the killing. He served his federal sentence at the Federal Correctional Institution in Butner, North Carolina, before being transferred to a Florida state prison to serve his state sentence. In February 2021, after serving approximately 20 years in prison and facing serious health issues, Connolly was granted a medical release by the Florida Commission on Offender Review. The decision was influenced by his terminal cancer diagnosis and a life expectancy of less than a year. He returned to Massachusetts under supervision and remains on parole until 2047. Despite his criminal convictions, Connolly continues to receive his federal pension, a point of contention given the severity of his crimes and breach of public trust. Charles F. McGonigal, Correctional Facility, FCI Sandstone. Age at time of crime, 49 to 51. Charles F. McGonigal, a former high-ranking FBI official who once led counterintelligence efforts in New York, was sentenced in December 2023 to 50 months in federal prison. He pleaded guilty to conspiring to violate U.S. sanctions by working secretly on behalf of Oleg Deripaska, a sanctioned Russian oligarch with close ties to the Kremlin. McGonigal used his position and expertise to aid Deripaska by investigating a rival oligarch, despite knowing that U.S. law forbade providing services to sanctioned individuals. His actions not only broke federal law, but also undermined U.S. national security efforts. In a separate but related case, McGonigal faced sentencing again in February 2024, where he received an additional 28-month prison term. This case involved his failure to report a $225,000 cash payment he received from an Albanian businessman who had deep connections to Albanian government officials. While still actively serving in the FBI, McGonigal concealed his relationship with the foreign businessman, violated FBI protocols, and engaged in unauthorized meetings with foreign officials. Prosecutors argued that his deception posed significant national security risks. Together, the two sentences amount to 17 8-months or 6.5 years of federal prison time to be served consecutively. Throughout both cases, prosecutors emphasized McGonigal's breach of public trust and his blatant prioritization of personal financial gain over his sworn duties. As a senior figure responsible for safeguarding the U.S. against foreign intelligence threats, McGonigal's willingness to sell his influence to foreign actors was viewed as a particularly egregious betrayal of his oath. McGonigal's downfall shocked the law enforcement and intelligence communities, serving as a stark reminder that corruption can reach even the highest and most trusted levels of national security. Richard W. Miller, Correctional Facility, undisclosed. Age at time of crime, 46. Richard W. Miller was a former FBI counterintelligence agent who made history in the worst possible way by becoming the first FBI agent ever indicted for espionage. His actions sent shockwaves through the intelligence community in 1984, when it was discovered that he had passed classified documents to the Soviet Union. What made his betrayal even more sensational was that the information was handed over through a deeply personal channel, his lover, who was a Soviet agent herself. After years of legal proceedings and multiple trials, Miller was ultimately convicted in 1991. The charges included espionage and conspiracy, crimes that struck at the core of national security during a period already tense with Cold War anxieties. Despite the gravity of his actions, Miller received a sentence of 20 years in federal prison. However, he served less than 3 years before being released, a decision that left many questioning the extent of justice served in such a critical breach of trust. One of the most shocking aspects of Miller's case was the romantic entanglement with his handler, which revealed not just professional misconduct, but also the human vulnerabilities that foreign intelligence agencies could exploit. His relationship with the Soviet operative exposed weaknesses in the FBI's internal oversight, raising urgent concerns about agent accountability and emotional manipulation within high-stakes intelligence work. Miller's correctional facility was never publicly disclosed, adding a layer of mystery to an already dramatic story. His case has since become a cautionary tale within the FBI and intelligence circles, a reminder that loyalty cannot be assumed, and that even those sworn to protect the nation can be seduced into betrayal. His downfall remains a significant chapter in the history of American counterintelligence. Alexander Smirnov, correctional facility, undisclosed, age at time of crime, 43. Alexander Smirnov, a former FBI informant, pleaded guilty in December 2024 to charges of lying to the FBI and tax evasion. He admitted to fabricating claims that executives from the Ukrainian energy company Burisma had paid President Joe Biden and his son, Hunter Biden, $5 million each, a story that became central to Republican-led impeachment efforts against the president. Smirnov also acknowledged failing to report over $2 million in income between 2020 and 2022, leading to additional tax-related charges. In January 2025, Smirnov was sentenced to 6 years in federal prison. Prosecutors argued that his false statements not only misled federal investigators, but also had significant political ramifications, fueling misinformation that influenced national discourse and legislative actions. Smirnov's defense requested a shorter sentence, citing his acceptance of responsibility, but the court imposed the full term recommended by the prosecution. Smirnov's case underscores the potential dangers of misinformation from trusted sources and highlights the importance of integrity within intelligence operations. Eduardo Valdivia, correctional facility, Montgomery County Correctional Facility in Maryland. Age at time of crime, 40. Eduardo Valdivia, a 40-year-old FBI special agent from Gaithersburg, Maryland, was arrested in November 2024 on multiple charges of sexual assault. He is accused of luring women to his tattoo studio under the pretense of offering free tattoos and modeling opportunities, then assaulting them. Valdivia used aliases such as Lalo Brown and El Boogie to conceal his identity. The alleged assaults occurred in May and September 2024, and a third victim came forward in January 2025. Valdivia has been indicted on 19 counts, including second-degree essay and second-degree assault, and faces up to 180 years in prison if convicted. At the time of the alleged crimes, Valdivia was 40 years old. He joined the FBI in 2011 and was promoted to Supervisory Special Agent in 2019. Prior to his arrest, he had been working undercover assignments and domestic terrorism investigations. Valdivia is currently suspended from his duties at the FBI pending the conclusion of the Montgomery County Police Department's investigation. He remains in custody at the Montgomery County Correctional Facility. The FBI has stated that it takes allegations of criminal violations and misconduct very seriously and is fully cooperating with the investigation. In a separate incident, Valdivia was acquitted in 2022 of attempted second-degree murder for shooting a man on a metro train in December 2020. He claimed he acted in self-defense during a confrontation with the unarmed passenger. Authorities believe there may be additional victims and are encouraging anyone with information to come forward as he awaits a bond hearing. Babak Brumand, correctional facility undisclosed, age at time of crime 49 to 52. Babak Brumand, a former FBI agent, was sentenced to 6 years in federal prison after being convicted of accepting over $150 in bribes from Edgar Sargsyan, a Beverly Hills lawyer with ties to Armenian organized crime. Between 2015 and 2018, Brumand secretly provided Sargsyan with confidential FBI information, including updates on investigations into key criminal figures like Levon Termenjian and Sam Sarkis Solakyan. In return, Brumand received lavish rewards, such as cash payments, a Ducati motorcycle, luxury hotel stays, private jet flights, and other expensive perks. His willingness to sell access to sensitive law enforcement information posed serious national security risks and represented a major betrayal of his oath of office. During his time at the FBI, Brumand had been assigned to the San Francisco field office, focusing on national security and counterterrorism. Despite holding a trusted position for nearly 2 decades from 1999 to 2018, Brumand began misusing his access to classified databases for personal gain. His criminal activities were eventually uncovered through an investigation led by the Department of Justice's Office of the Inspector General and other federal agencies. Brumand was ultimately convicted of conspiracy, bribery of a public official, and conducting unlawful financial transactions, underscoring a severe breakdown of integrity within the federal agency. At his sentencing, U.S. District Judge R. Gary Klausner recognized Brumand's prior contributions, but emphasized that the gravity of his offenses outweighed his years of service. Brumand, in an emotional statement to the court, expressed deep remorse, claiming he still loved the United States despite his actions. However, the judge stressed that the deliberate selling of national security information for personal profit represented an unforgivable breach of trust that damaged the credibility of law enforcement agencies tasked with safeguarding the nation. From trusted FBI agents to convicted criminals, their downfall serves as a chilling reminder that no badge or title can shield anyone from justice. These men once stood for law and order, only to lose their own freedom. As prison walls close in, their names remain etched in both FBI and criminal history. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more untold stories.